After a successful start to President Xi Jinping's visit to Germany, we'll be looking at the relationship between China and Germany as the two celebrate 45 years of diplomatic ties. And Chinese workers carry off another stunning feat of engineering by demolishing an overpass in a matter of hours. What's behind this particularly Chinese phenomenon? Welcome to The Point. Live from Beijing, I'm Li Xin. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Wednesday hailed his conversation with German Chancellor Angela Merkel as productive after a number of documents had been signed between the two sides ahead of the upcoming G20 summit in Hamburg. President Xi and his German hosts later in the day also attended the opening ceremony of the Panda Garden at Berlin Zoo after China had loaned a couple of giant pandas to Germany for the 45th anniversary celebration of diplomatic ties. So what diplomatic achievements are Beijing and Berlin celebrating? What divergences are still facing the two sides, and how might China and Germany facilitate Eurasian connectivity and their own economic partnership? First, let's take a look at this background report.
A symbol of friendship at a crucial moment. Animal envoys sent from China on loan to Berlin Zoo for 15 years. By that time, both these leaders will have come and gone. Right now, Angela Merkel and Xi Jinping are centre stage as Germany and China jointly lead the cry to keep the world order intact.
It is a great pleasure for us to welcome you here during a time of unrest in the world, where China and Germany can make a contribution towards calming down this unrest.
It doesn't come without its perks. Both watched on as a number of public and private sector cooperation deals were signed. German business leaders still say Chinese subsidies put them at an unfair disadvantage in the global marketplace. From the Chinese side, more willingness, it appears, to get over such hurdles.
The new starting point requires a new leap forward. My visit this time is to draw a new blueprint, set a new goal, plan a new path for the next stage of development in this comprehensive strategic partnership to enable bilateral relations to go the extra mile on what has been achieved.
To end the day, a China versus Germany youth football match. So a few lighter moments ahead of what may be the toughest G20 summit yet.
Before we go into the discussion, here is my point, and I'm drawing my inspiration from a German guy whose sketches about his life in China have gone viral. In his latest video, Thomas, better known as Afu or Fortune in Chinese, wrote an open letter to German Chancellor Angela Merkel asking her to learn something from China. He said that the attention to detail and perseverance of the Germans will bring benefits to both countries when married with the flexibility and creativity of the Chinese. The Chinese have been looking up to German-made products, but now it's also the time, he says, for Germans to look the other direction, for instance, in the making of a cashless society. Being once a bank teller in Germany, Thomas said he would never have imagined Germans without their cash, but China is fast becoming a leader in fintech and the shared economy. Afu asked the German Chancellor to help make that happen in Germany too. I think it was a very interesting story. Now, China's growth has been fast, and only the people who have lived it know what we're talking about. Both sides stand to gain if they are open-minded about working together, and the same is true not just between China and Germany, but with other countries as well. And joining me now for discussion on this topic from Gütersloh in northwest Germany is Bernhard Bartsch, a senior Asia expert at the independent Bertelsmann Foundation, and Jingling from Beijing, an associate research fellow of the China Institute of International Studies. Welcome to both of you. Now, Ms. Jing, first to you. China and Germany have upgraded their bilateral ties to a comprehensive strategic partnership since President Xi's first visit to Germany, and the two sides have exchanged many bilateral visits ever since. Are we just looking at bilateral ties between these two countries, or at a higher strategic level?
Actually, today when talking about China and Germany cooperation, it has been far beyond the bilateral level. Of course, the bilateral cooperation will be the solid basis for the bilateral relations. For example, the trade and investment fast increased between the two sides. But today, under the very uncertain international context, the strategic dimension of the cooperation have been exceptionally visible. For example, today the world is facing the big uncertainties like the Brexit happened last year, and also the Trump effect that brought very big uncertainties as to the so-called protectionism and also pulling now for climate change deals. In order to overcome the big uncertainties and join hands to deal with the common challenges this time, I think China and Germany have stressed the importance of the cooperate and coordinate in the multilateral forum such as the G20. So this time, the President and the Chancellor has stressed the importance of the heavyweights of China and Germany should serve as stabilizing powers in both regions and bring the certainties to the world.
Mr. Barch, what factors do you think are driving these two sides closer?
I guess basically German-Chinese relations is a case of globalization working pretty well, in the sense that it allows our two countries to connect on many different levels. Let me just point out three. On an economic level, there's a lot of cooperation. There are more than 5,000 German companies in China. There are almost 1,000 Chinese companies in Germany now, and this practically means thousands of projects, literally millions of people working together on projects, often very successfully. Then on a political level, China and Germany are both key powers in their regions. China in its own right, Germany nowadays mainly because of its leading role in the European Union. And institutionally, I would say that if you look at the world leaders that assemble in Hamburg now, Germany and China are really the world champions of continuity nowadays, to an extent where, at least in Germany, we discuss how much continuity can be too much of a good thing. But because they have been so reliable for each other, there's been such a long tradition, such strong connections between ministries and all kinds of institutions. This has allowed both sides to work together very well.
You talked about continuity. Now, the German ambassador to China, Michael Klaus, just said in an interview last month that China's Belt and Road Initiative is a China-style globalization, which is different from Germany's globalization. Do you think there is a difference between the two? If so, what are the differences?
I think the differences exist, and they're quite profound. In general, of course, Germany is also very much for connecting less developed parts of the world with the more developed parts. But the Belt and Road Initiative, from how we understand it at the moment, is very much built on hard infrastructure. It's building roads and railroads and mobile networks and that kind of stuff. The European approach is that, of course, all this infrastructure is good, but it's also the soft factors that really would help the region to develop its full potential. And that would mean open markets, good governance, rule of law. And I think we would need a lot more development and clear signals in this regard for Germany and Europe to share the big excitement about Belt and Road that China already has.
Ms. Jing, what's your take on this issue?
I totally agree with our German colleague that the differences exist between the two sides. But I like the differences are not necessarily in contradictory to each other. They could serve as complementary of each other that will contribute to the development of the world. I just like to cite the example case of the study done by German experts. I still remember in 2008 that there was a very high, sharp criticism toward Chinese policy in Africa. But according to the research, that Chinese approaches in the country for example, Ethiopia, that's different from Germans' approaches, but that's very naturally matched to each other. Chinese way didn't undermine any of Germans' endeavor to the good governance. That is totally actually complementary to each other to serve the development of the country.
Now, during President Xi's talks with Angela Merkel on Wednesday, President Xi stressed that the two sides should support their firms or their companies in synergizing the Made in China 2025 initiative by China and Germany's Industry 4.0 so as to unleash the potential for innovation. Ms. Jin, are the two countries ready for the synergy, you think, in branding its manufacturing industry?
I think on the enterprises level, this issue could be divided into different levels. From the enterprises level, they have started the practical cooperations. For example, in the Shenyang, we have the German side and the Chinese side has set the industrial park for the equipment manufacturing. That is a typical case for the cooperations. And I think the German enterprises fully realize the big market potential in China for their high technology products. And for Chinese side, that the enterprises are also eager to upgrade their production chains. So that is a very perfect match of the two sides. But with the governmental level, strong political wheels for cooperation in order to have the competitive advantages to match each other. But there are still some concerns, I think, from both from Chinese side and German side, especially from German side. For example, there's still some concerns about the misunderstandings of the IPR issues and also in which way that could best serve the so-called win-win corporations.
Mr. Bartsch, what is your take on this? What are the concerns of German, either government or the German companies in terms of synchronizing the two initiatives?
I think firstly I'd state also from a German perspective that there are huge chances in going to the next frontier of intelligent manufacturing, digitalization, automation together, driving this innovation together. But indeed, like Ms. Jin pointed out, especially on the government level, it's quite hard to synchronize because I think innovation on a company level is happening. There's rapid innovation. The biggest challenge of the whole digital era is regulation, smart regulation, regulating to what extent we can control data, how we deal with the fact that companies, digital companies, sit in one country but have a reach globally. And I think there Germany and China are on two very different sides of the scale. Europe at the moment is trying to tackle the problem of regulating big data companies, or modern digital era companies. China has has done a lot of regulation already. To our understanding, a little too much. The new cybersecurity law is a huge headache for German companies, or foreign companies in China in general, because it's very strict in defining what kind of data has to be shared, how you can transfer data from China.
I have
to
1
other
minute
countries.
left. I have 1 minute left. Let Ms. Jin respond to this question. Ms. Jin, how would you respond to the worry that this new law is posing potential obstacles to German businesses?
Actually, this issue has been heatedly discussed during all the time think tanks talking. Here I like to say that different cultures and also different different mindset, it has played a role in the misunderstandings. So from my point of view, that the entrepreneurs could serve as, the driving forces for the corporations. Only with pragmatic and practical corporations, both sides could find the joint benchmarks and also criteria as to the regulation, the gaps between the two sides. It's not very easy, actually. It's not very difficult, not very easy for the two sides, actually, at the very beginning, that we could have a kind of convergences of regulations. Looking at the integration of the EU itself, you could still see there is a very big gaps among the member states because of different cultures.
Yeah.
So there is a long way to go, I think, only with pragmatic corporations to build mutual trust in order to, closing the gaps.
We have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Bernhard Bartsch, a senior Asia expert at the Bertelsmann Foundation, and Ms. Jingling from the China Institute of International Studies. And you're watching The Point with me, Liu Xin. I'll be back right after this short break. Don't go away. Residents in an eastern Chinese city woke up one morning to find that the overpass outside their houses had disappeared overnight. At over half a kilometer long, the overpass in Nanchang City was demolished in just 8 hours by about 200 diggers in order to make way for a new road network. Normally, it would have taken months to demolish a bridge like this. However, since last year, the city government has started using dozens, if not hundreds, of diggers on big demolition projects to accelerate the process. Now, China's speed has again shocked the world, with UK's Daily Mail, for instance, calling this incredible efficiency. What's behind China's high speed in infrastructure projects? Is there a cost to such speed? How does China compare to its Asian neighbors, such as India? Joining me first is Mr. Sun Xingxiao from Mumbai, India. He's a senior engineer and registered architect in the China Harbour Engineering Company. Mr. Sun, thank you very much for joining us. Now, first of all, what's the general speed of building a project in India compared to similar ones in China, based on your 17 years experience in that country, and what are the reasons behind that?
Yes, hi everybody. I'm so lucky I had the chance to meet everybody here. Actually, I'm working in India more than 17 years. So first I come here from 2000. So for constructing one big bridge, we call Bandarwali Ceiling Bridge in Mumbai locations. So in India, regular we do one infrastructure, we spend a lot of time. This is why we have built one total length only 5 kilometers and weighs around 24 meters. But in China, almost one bridge we can finish within 3 years only. But this bridge we spend in Mumbai more than 9 years. So I want to compare that. I want to tell you everybody the reasons why spend 9 years for this bridge. First, we're talking about the first major of the location in Mumbai, because Mumbai near the Arab Sea is we call this location called Mahar Bay. It's a very high, dangerous during the monsoon season. Where is the monsoon season? The wind we can reach more than 12 degrees. I mean the typhoon cyclone. And then we shall be stopped during the monsoon. This is fourth major. Nobody can working. This government not allowed working during the monsoon season. Second important factor is that mean the human factor. That means along this bridge, a lot of fishermen is fishing area near this bridge. During we are construction that, fishermen make a lot of trouble to the construction program. To make this, this close the road, occupy the land, and hang to dry the garment, and said we are occupied his location for fishing area. So this we spend a lot of time and change the location, make a new designing, change the alignment. That means give some channel for the fishermen to pass his vessel to under the bridge. So we make a completely new designing and new alignment. Third important matter is for this measurement. In China, we have very skilled people, management staff, and the manpowers. But in India, almost all the company, we use the manpower for marketing. The marketing from anywhere, from some farmers, from these local laborers, and it's not good training. It's not so skilled laborers to use on site.
No.
Also the management staff. First time, they are built a big bridge like this cable stay bridge, and they are not so familiar and to construction the big bridge. That's why they are employ us to come to the bridge to build the bridge, and also for designing.
Yeah, I see. We have to leave it there. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Sun Xingxiao. Time is very limited, but I see your main points. Thank you very much for sharing with us your experiences and your observations. Senior engineer from China Harbour Engineering Company. And now I'm joined by Mr. Xu Sitao, chief economist from Deloitte, China. Mr. Xu, what is your response to or reaction to what Mr. Sun described there, the kind of extra long process of building an infrastructure project?
Yeah, that's something we know, that's so-called Hindu speed, because in a political system in India, I think things take time. So I think that's nothing new.
That's nothing new.
Yeah, but I think it's getting better. What
is China's comparative advantage in that regard?
Well, I think China's comparative advantage versus India, there are many, right? I would say, first of all, if we compare these two great civilizations, clearly there's a more discipline in China. I would say, particularly after economic reforms started, this is a strong urge for catching up. And there's a mentality of long-term planning. Therefore, I think the execution really is at a different level. In addition to that, Chinese culture, Confucius culture, you emphasize saving. So the saving rate is always very high. Therefore, I think we always follow this notion, infrastructure is simply the precondition for future economic development, and we have been doing that in very ruthless manner.
What about the differences or the difference in political system? For instance, China is a centralized government system where a lot of resources can be pulled into a project, whereas in India it's called the most populous democracy in the world. So is there a factor there?
Well, there are many differences, but I would say the biggest difference clearly is land acquisition. So I mean, the previous guest you have invited, he talked about the fishermen and so on and so forth. I would just really summarize as the difficulty of land acquisition. So that's something clearly China does not have to deal with.
Is there a side effect to that? I mean, what are the potential costs to the Chinese speed?
Well, I mean, there are a few side effects, right? Nothing is perfect, pro and cons. I think the essence of China growth model, right, is really about catching up, achieving certain standard of living, not to move away from middle income trap. But at the same time, you may say, are we trying to, at any cost, including human cost, environmental cost? I think those are the side effects.
Are the Chinese government and the Chinese society, ordinary people, aware of these side effects?
Absolutely. I think just in this very city in Beijing, you know that in past few years, the awareness of environment, air quality, just at different level. I think as a country moving into per capita GDP of 8,000, I think people pay more attention to quality of life, quality of growth, and just overall well-being. So I think it has changed.
Yeah. What about China's construction speed compared with developed countries? I mean, as I said, for instance, some media in the UK also marvel at the Chinese efficiency. Is that something that they're also pretty much envy or jealous of?
Well, to a certain extent, because in, I mean, not just in the UK, in North America, for example, you can see airport and highway, and you can see actually quite a rundown infrastructure, right? I mean, even you look at the third-tier cities in China, the quality of airport and highway really just first-rated. So yeah, I agree with you. There is an element of jealousy.
Well, and there is also this Western report saying that China's big tech advantage is speed, not cost. Do you share that view? I mean,
speed. I think speed is a result. I would say China's high tech is about the size. It's really about size, because whether you look at fintech, you look at the sharing economy, right? When you deal with the size, inevitably you are going to produce the world-class company in that space. And secondly, if we compare the sharing economy between China and the United States, for example, in the West, a bicycle is something you have as a surplus and lending to me. But in China, that's a valuable platform gathering consumer data. So it really just very different things.
Looking ahead, what kind of opportunity is that posing for China, and whether that kind of opportunity can be shared, can be brought by China to other markets?
Well, I think first of all, I think the strengths of infrastructure, and I think China takes quite a non-personal way of development, just being not so dogmatic. So I would say that growth model can be exported to many developing countries. It has nothing to do with ideology, really about having good infrastructure as a precondition for future economic development.
And that's what has been trying to do with this Belt and Road Initiative. Well, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much. Sun Sitao, Xu Sitao, sorry, Chief Economist from Deloitte China. Come to the show more often and I'll know your name slightly better. Sorry about that, but we have to wrap it there. And as usual, here's my last point before you go. China leads the world in infrastructure investment, and infrastructure development remains a top priority for China's development, which has long recognized that a modern economy runs on reliable roads and rails, electricity and telecommunications. Now, China's leadership has said that it wants to bring the entire nation's urban infrastructure and rural infrastructure up to the level of that in middle-income country, while using increasingly efficient transport logistics to tie the country together. Basically, there's a Chinese saying that if you want to get rich, build a road first, once you have demolished the old one before that, of course. And that's all for this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. As always, follow me on Twitter or visit our Facebook page using the handle The Point with LX. Download the application called CGTN Live to watch our show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got The Point.